Can Mercedes snatch Red Bull his greatest active just when they need it most? And what really means that Max Verstappen has already said yes to Toto Wolff? Today I am going to tell you how, when and why Verstappen could dress in silver in 2026, and why this can be the beginning of the end for Red Bull. It all started as a rumor that, in any other season, would have been discarded instantly by absurd. Max Verstappen, the Red Bull domain symbol, considering a change to Mercedes? Impossible, until it ceased to be. What seemed unthinkable was charging a little by little. First, in silence between paddock halls, with complicit looks and ambiguous answers to media questions. Then, with the confirmation of George Russell in Austria, who publicly admitted that the conversations between his team and Verstappen were not only real, but were active. It was there that the whole environment of Formula One realized, this is serious. Toto Wolff was not tantling the market. He was putting together a meticulously calculated offensive to recruit the most quoted pilot from the entire grill. The pieces imply chillingly precisely. Toto Wolff had been planning the future post-Hamilton for some time and had decided that he would not build it around a promise, but to a certainty: Max Verstappen. But why would Verstappen consider taking that leap, after having won 4 titles with Red Bull and becoming the most dominant pilot of his generation? The answer is not in the past, but in the present. Red Bull is going through a moment of institutional decomposition. Since the internal scandal that splashed Christian Horner, the atmosphere in the team has changed. Key personnel exits, conflicts in the dome, tensions between the Verstappen and the directive. All that has eroded confidence in a project that for years was synonymous with stability. And even more serious, the RB21 is not up to it. What was previously an unstoppable machine is now a temperamental car, difficult to configure and that no longer guarantees podiums. Red Bull has ceased to be a dominant team to become one who fights for third place. Verstappen, like any elite competitor, does not want to rebuild. He wants to keep winning. And when he looks at the opposite garage, he sees an alternative that is no longer a mirage. Mercedes has risen. After 2 years of technical crisis, Brackley's team has managed to transform its aerodynamic concept, recover efficiency in slow curves and improve the career rhythm. Toto Wolff has not only managed to return competitiveness to the car, but has made Mercedes again a successful platform. They have done it with George Russell as technical anchor and Kimi Antonelli as a young promise. But the key piece is missing: an undisputed leader, a figure that not only wins races but imposes respect and direction. That figure is Max Verstappen. Mercedes's interest is not new. Already in 2024 there were discreet contacts. And although Verstappen chose to stay in Red Bull after achieving their 4th title, those conversations were never closed at all. Toto Wolff has played the long term. He has waited for Red Bull to start showing cracks. He has waited for Verstappen's contractual clauses to be activated. And he has done it right at the time of greater weakness for his rival. On the political board of the F1, this is a master play. And now, everything indicates that it has worked. Verstappen has given the verbal yes, accepted the terms. And although there is still no official signature, the structures are underway. Toto Wolff has already blocked internal decisions waiting to confirm its pilot alignment. And the fact that it coincides with the summer break, the same moment that Verstappen can activate its output clause, is not a coincidence. It is the culmination of a plan executed with surgical precision. This earthquake not only changes the future of Mercedes, changed the entire narrative of Formula One. Because if Verstappen can leave Red Bull, then no one is really tied to anything. Because if the world champion considers that he can no longer win with his people, what hope does others have left? In the heart of this story there are not only emotions, there are clauses. Paragraphs hidden between pages of multi-million-dollar contracts that, today, are the true protagonists of the future of Formula One. Which seemed to be an armored commitment until 2028 between Max Verstappen and Red Bull, it turns out to be full of escape points. Legal details that were negotiated with intelligence, almost with premeditation, by the Verstappen clan since they signed that long-term agreement. And now, those same doors that seemed before a formality are opening over par. The first key clause is individual performance. This establishes that if Verstappen is not within the first 3 of the pilot championship in the summer break, you have the right to terminate the contract without any penalty. The shocking thing is how close it is to activate. Currently, Verstappen is 3rd in the table, but with just a few points of difference about George Russell. In a championship as tight as that of 2025, a bad weekend, a breakdown or a bad strategy would suffice so that the Dutch falls to 4th place. And with that, he would have the perfect legal justification to leave. But it is not the only exit door. There is a second clause, even more powerful and less known, which points to the performance of the team in the Builder Championship. If Red Bull is not among the top 3 in the middle of the season, Verstappen can break the contract immediately. And guess what? That condition has already been fulfilled. Red Bull is currently 4th, surpassed not only by McLaren, but also by Ferrari and Mercedes. This, in simple terms, means that Verstappen has green light to leave whenever you want. Legally, the link that ties it to Red Bull is broken. The only thing missing is for him to say it publicly. And this is where Toto Wolff's strategic genius charges all his value. Mercedes has synchronized its internal decisions calendar with the Verstappen contractual calendar. Wolff has declared that he will not announce his final alignment by 2026 until after the summer break. It is no accident. That wait allows Verstappen to activate his departure, negotiate in freedom, and finally, close the agreement without compromising prematurely or risking legal conflicts. This coordination shows that we are not facing an impromptu operation. It is a meticulous offensive, planned with total knowledge of the contractual dynamics of the most valuable pilot in the world. And he also tells us about a deeper reality. Red Bull can no longer guarantee Verstappen what he demands. Not only a competitive car, but a stable, focused, and at the height of its ambition. The clauses, then, are not simple legal technicalities. They are the reflection of a relationship that is on the verge of collapse. A link that, although it has paid extraordinary fruits, no longer seems sustainable in the new context of Formula One. And the most ironic thing is that these clauses, initially thought to protect Verstappen in case of emergency, are becoming the mechanism that releases it right at the time it needs them most. This scenario not only has sports implications. Mark a precedent. If Verstappen can leave Red Bull in full season using performance clauses, other pilots with long contracts could look for the same. A new era is opened in F1, where contracts are not chains but trampolines. Where power is no longer alone in the teams, but in the legal information that pilots negotiate in silence, with surgical precision. The possible march of Max Verstappen to Mercedes is not a simple pilot transfer. It is a structural cataclysm that puts the balance of power in the modern Formula One. It is not just that the world champion changes equipment, but about what his departure represents for Red Bull, for Mercedes, for sponsors, for young talents in training, and ultimately, for the narrative that sustains Formula One as a global show. If Verstappen leaves Red Bull, what remains is not only an empty seat, but an emptiness of leadership, technical, and identity direction. For years, the Dutch has been much more than his first pilot. It has been the center of gravity around which the entire team has articulated strategies, car design, tire management, aerodynamic development, and internal political decisions. His aggressive driving style even dictated how the car should behave. The engineers built based on it, and teammates were selected not to challenge it, but to complement it. His departure would dismantle that ecosystem in a matter of days. The immediate replacement, Yuki Tsunoda, lacks experience, technical leadership, and emotional maturity to assume that role. However talented, his role in Red Bull was always that of apprentice or squire. Placing Tsunoda at the head of the project is, in practice, a recognition that Red Bull needs to start from scratch. And that means that they will lose ground at a time when F1 is about to rewrite technically for 2026, with the new generation of hybrid cars. At the other end of the board, Mercedes would become the new power center. Not only would they add to the most dominant pilot of the modern era, but they would do so at the exact moment in which the team has recovered competitiveness. With the W15 already showing signs of consistency and the technical project of 2026 advancing with unlimited resources, Verstappen would reach an armed structure for success, with the motivation to demonstrate that its talent transcends any team. His arrival would also reorder internal hierarchies. Kimi Antonelli, the young promise of the Mercedes Academy, would have time to mature without pressure, while George Russell, if he stays, should adapt to share track with an undisputed leader. Or I could even look for an exit. But the repercussions do not stop there. The entire pilot market would enter a domino effect. Red Bull would need to look for a weight substitute. The names of Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, or even Lando Norris would begin to sound. Teams such as Ferrari, Aston Martin, or McLaren would also have to recalibrate their plans, aware that the game has changed. In a sport where each strategic decision can mold years of performance, the departure of Verstappen triggers a waterfall of movements that alter the logic of the paddock. And then there is the psychological impact. For engineers, sponsors, and managers of Red Bull, seeing the pilot who gave them everything, who raised them to Olympus after the Vettel era, would be a difficult blow to process. For fans, it would mean the end of an era. And for Formula One itself, It would represent the most unexpected turn of recent times, the champion abandoning his throne of his own will. Not because it has lost the level, but because the environment no longer guarantees the greatness it demands. The future of the category is literally at stake. Because if Verstappen crosses the line, if you go to Mercedes, send a message that resonates beyond the track. In Formula One, the talent no longer expects. It demands results, vision, project. And if he doesn't find it where he is, he looks for him where he knows he can build it. Because at the end of the day, speed can be a constant, but success is always a decision. So now that you know the whole story, all internal mechanics and the factors that surround this possible bomb that can shake the order of the modern Formula One, the question is no longer yes, Max Verstappen could go to Mercedes. The real question is, are we ready for what that means? And now I want to know what you think. Do you think Verstappen is making the best decision for your career? Or do you think leaving Red Bull at this time is an unnecessary bet that can cost him expensive? How do you think the Austrian team will react?